Hello everybody, in today's video I'm going to show you how to make beef stroganoff. There are many different stories about this food that are out there. However, one thing that is agreed upon is that it was a food that was either made for or made by Stroganoff family. The Stroganoff family was a significant family in Tsarist Russia, dating back to 1500th century. And also the origin of this food goes back to either Russia or Ukraine. Regardless, after many centuries passing, this food has still survived, meaning that there are like a wide varieties of this food out there that are still called beef stroganoff. However, it is very important to keep the balance between the ingredients, and if you do so, you can turn something that is considered by many as a working class dish into something suitable for nobility. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, we start by cutting yellow or white onions that are the best types for this food. Do not use red onions, as these types of onions, because of their high sugar content, can give color to the creamy or pale sauce, making the result at the end unpalatable to the eyes. The board I'm using for making this food is made of high density plastic that is a phenomenal type of material, as it is dishwasher safe, minimizes the introduction of microplastics during the cutting process, and is resistant to staining. The foods that are notorious for staining, such as turmeric, beetroots, or different types of protein, cannot stain this kind of board. The size of slices in this video might seem a little bit big to you, but don't worry about it. They will disappear during the cooking process. Baby bella or cremini mushrooms are the most popular and recommended mushrooms for beef stroganoff. When using this type of mushroom, you need to cut them thick enough so they would not lose their texture. The main reason for them for being so popular is because of their deep and earthy flavor, and in fact, they have this umami taste that pairs really well with beef. Last but not least, when it comes to cutting the veggies, we have mincing the garlic. I'm using 2 cloves of garlic for this food. Depending on your taste, you can increase or decrease the number of cloves. This is how I'm using the knife. With a few gentle motions, I mince both cloves of garlic, and after reducing to the size that you see in the video, I lay them down on the board, and with a few other gentle motions of the knife, I further reduce the size. Please remember, this is a cooking for having fun, not for competition. What matters at the end is having fingers that are safe. For today's beef stroganoff, I'm using 2 ribeye steaks. And of course, you have the liberty to use other beef parts. Regardless of the beef type or part you are using, you have to pay attention to make the slices thin and uniform, especially if you're using searing technique. In addition to ribeye steak, you can of course use sirloin, that is probably the most common choice. Also, you can use tenderloin or filet mignon, that is extremely tender. You can also use top loin or New York strip, that provides a good balance of tenderness and flavor. In addition to all these that I mentioned or named, you can also use budget-friendly options like top round, bottom round, chuck steak, or flank steak. As you can see, all of the slices that I'm producing are thin and uniform. In order to make it easy for me to make cuts like that, I used cold shaping technique. In simple terms, I left the 2 steaks in the freezer for 30 minutes, and the reduction in temperature turned the raw meat that is slippery and soft into a block that is rigid and manageable. In this way, you can have a good grip on the meat and also easily cut the meat into thin slices that are uniform. Let's get down to the real business, that is searing the beef slices in a steel pan. When you're using a steel pan, you have to make sure it is hot enough before adding the oil and then the beef. For making sure that it is hot enough, one thing you can do is splash in some water, and if it builds up, it means that the Leidenfrost effect has kicked in, or in simple words, the meat stickiness is going to be minimized. As you can see, using steel pans is not that easy, but of course, there are benefits associated with using these pans because many people are using them, and also almost all the good chefs are using steel pans. They provide this excellent searing and browning because these types of pans get very hot and hold heat well. That helps create strong crusts on steak that make it much more delicious and tasty. They're also durable and long lasting. If you buy a set of these pans, you can easily pass them down to your grandchildren or even great grandchildren. They're also safe for high heat. For instance, you can use them for baking in oven without having any concerns for release of chemicals during the baking process. They also don't have any non-stick coatings. As you know, coatings such as those that are like Teflon or made of PTFE, in which many different chemicals are used, can be risky and dangerous, especially when they are worn out. When they are worn out, they can easily introduce particles or chemicals into the food that can be even carcinogenic. All right, let's get back to the cooking business again. When you are searing the meat in the steel pan, make sure that you don't put all the meat at once. You should do it in batches. For this food, I'm going to sear everything in 5 to 6 batches. I say batches are important because you don't want to overcrowd the pan. And if that's the case, what is going to happen is boiling. It would not be searing because when you overcrowd the pan would not be able to retain heat, and what happens there would be boiling, not searing. When you want to flip the beef slices, do not rush it. No matter what you did for making the pan less sticky, it still is going to be a little bit sticky, especially when you want to flip. After flipping, everything is going to be okay. Then it would not be sticky. But when you want to flip, you have to make sure that you at first would wiggle and jiggle, because this gentle motion helps creating that vibration, making it easier for the beef slices to be flipped. And when that happens, you can easily stir everything there till it is cooked enough. And you don't need to overcook this meat, by the way. Anything around like 3 to 4 minutes would be enough. Even 3 minutes would be more than enough for this food. After we are done with searing the meat, it's time to saute the onions. For doing so, we use the same pan, and we use the same pan not because we want to make the cooking easier, but also we want to make the most out of those brown bits or fawns you see at the bottom of the pan. Those are formed due to Maillard reaction that occurs when amino acids from proteins interact with reducing sugars at high temperatures, leaving a brown crust and rich aromas on the seared meat. This reaction creates hundreds of different compounds, adding savory, nutty, and roasted notes. And you want to use them, you don't want to lose them. So that's why, again, you use the same pan. And by adding some butter and letting it melt, you get ready for adding onions. When the melting happens, you add the onions and start sautéing, and keep sautéing until the onion is caramelized or deeply browned or translucent to unlock their natural sugars. After caramelization of the onions, you saute mushrooms until they are browned and tender to develop maximum flavor. By the way, this is the stage at which you can add salt and black pepper to your taste. We add the garlic and keep sauteing until fragrant or all the aromatic compounds are released, which takes anywhere typically around 2 to 3 minutes. After the garlic is fragrant, it's time to add flour. And 1 tablespoon of flour for the amount of ingredients I use for this food is enough. I know, I understand sometimes it might be tempting to add more flour because we might think it's not enough, but believe me, if you add too much, your sauce would be too thick. After sauteing the flour for 2 to 3 minutes, you can go ahead and add the heavy whipping cream. And after you add the cream, keep stirring for a couple minutes. And after that, let the sauce to come to a simmer. After it starts to simmer, you can go ahead and add the sour cream, but it is not recommended to add the sour cream directly to the sauce. The best practice is to add some sour cream in a smaller separate bowl, then add some juice from the sauce to that bowl and stir it in the bowl and make it thinner and then add it to the sauce. In this way, you can make sure that you achieve a uniform dispersion of sour cream in your sauce. Then after that, it will be the time for adding Dijon mustard and Worcestershire sauce. Add them and keep stirring. And again, after you're done with the addition of all the ingredients, let the sauce to come to a simmer again. And once that happens, it is time to add the beef that we seared previously. By the way, in the other pot that you can see in the background, I've been making egg noodles, which is a very straightforward, easy process. Just follow the instructions on the package and then you can easily make it. This food, by the way, can be served with many different types of carbohydrates. One of them is egg noodles. You also can serve it with mashed potatoes or even rice. Also, you can use roasted or boiled baby potatoes. And there are like a few other options. As I said, this food has been around for a couple centuries, and there are many different ways of making it or serving it. So after adding the beef, you just need to wait for 5, 6, or 7 more minutes till everything comes to a simmer again, and then voila, you're ready for serving the food. After cooking the food, now the moment of truth has come. It's time to taste and try the food and share with you how it really tastes. So for serving the food, at first I laid down egg noodles at the bottom, then served the beef stroganoff on top. In order to make it more aromatic and make it more beautiful, I sprinkled the top with some lemon thyme. instead of lemon thyme, you could use other herbs like chives. So let me try it and share with you how it really tastes. So I'm gonna cut a piece of beef and also take some egg noodles with some thyme and try. First of all, I wish you all were here with me so you could try and taste this. It is tasting really good and as expected, to be honest. So it's very flavorful, and I hope by following something similar to what I did, you can replicate the same thing at home. I hope you will enjoy this food after you cook it at home. Bye.